I'm going to move on to talk about innovative clubs. Now, I want to say at the outset, considering innovation in Rotary does not mean that we are devaluing our current clubs, our legacy clubs, our existing clubs. I am a member of a club that meets Monday for lunch. We're a 60-year-old club with 120 members. You know, I like my club. I like my members. I enjoy the experience. But that doesn't work for everybody in my community. The innovation, and as I pointed out earlier, innovative clubs is where the growth is happening, certainly in North America. There's a concerted effort there. That is why we need to be more innovative. Because the fact is that our existing clubs over time are shrinking. Your district, as we talked about, over the last 5 years is down 265 members. Now, if you do the math, I don't know, I hate to hit you with math on a Saturday morning, but that comes out to basically each club losing an average of 1 member a year. Right? That's well within the threshold of pain for most clubs. We can finish a year down 1 or 2, and we don't feel so bad about that. But as you see, in the time of 5 years, that's over 12% of your district is no longer around. And we know all the reasons that matters. No less than Paul Harris, our founder, issued this quote, which I think applies now, certainly. We must be evolutionary at all times, revolutionary on occasions. We are in one of those times. We certainly know the pace of change in our world is increasing. And we talked about the demographics, Pat did earlier, about the demographics that have an impact on all this. Now, this slide, I wish it were a little bit larger. I apologize for this. But to reinforce some of the trends that we talked about earlier, on the left, the pie chart is from 2010. On the right, it's from 2020. So we got a 10-year snapshots. And essentially what you see in that time is as a percentage of the world, looking at regions, that Latin America has held steady. Europe, Africa, Middle East has held steady. Great Britain and Ireland and Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Islands have all held within 1%. The big change in the pie chart is that the U.S., Canada, and Caribbean has gone from 32, I'm losing my eyes in addition to my hearing, 32 to 28%. And Asia has gone from 26 to 33%. It is now the most populous region for Rotarians in the world. So as our organization has held more or less steady in membership, there's been a drain in North America, and Asia has grown to essentially replenish what we've been losing. Now, some of you will be familiar with the traditional S-curve in business, right? You get started with an idea, you're thinking, we might can make a go of this. I'm sorry if I'm blocking you. Might be able to make it go of this, and then things take off. And it looks like we can't lose. We are just rolling along, and then we kind of flatten out. It's like, oh no. When I see this S-curve, I think of another S-curve, one that tracks Rotary International's membership over time. Looks very similar. It's not smoothed out like the one on the left, but it's essentially the same thing. And that flat line of membership, that's the last 30 years. That's 30 years. So the solution for that is a culture of innovation. Now, you might think, this ding-dong from North Carolina is coming in here talking about this. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but we have to think differently. I'm going to reinforce the point in a moment. We have to think differently. Has anybody in the last couple of years had to take a different approach to Rotary? Yeah? Yeah, we had that little friend called COVID come visit us, and suddenly we all found out what it was like to be in an E-club, right? Yeah. The Model T. The Model T came out in 1908, 3 years after Rotary was founded. During that time, Ford has evolved a bit, right? Trucks, muscle cars, minivans, SUVs, now electric vehicles. Rotary, and we still got our club model, right? Pretty much doing things the way we've been doing things for over 100 years. Here's a couple of brands I think everybody in the room will recognize. Fair? Everybody recognize those brands? Are you still with me? All right. All right. So let's consider the case of McDonald's. They recognize that Subway, Chipotle, other brands are cutting into what they were doing. They've revamped what they look like. They've revamped how they advertise. They've changed their brand. And it's still remarkable to me that you can get breakfast all day long. Almost the whole day. But a breakfast burrito at lunch. Who'd have thunk it, right? I can tell you, I don't go to McDonald's that often. I hope there are no franchisees in the room. But if I go at lunch, I'm more likely to get a breakfast item than a Big Mac. Now, like Rotary, they didn't take away the Big Mac. We're not saying get rid of your clubs as they exist. We're saying add to. Add to with innovative clubs. Now, we're going to show you another video just to be sure that you're still all with us and you don't have to listen to me continuously. I think that this next video is the finest video that Rotary International has ever produced. It's called Anytown. It's okay. Apparently others like it too. It's 2 minutes, so enjoy. Oh.
As Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow? Personally, professionally, and organizationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, as Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow? Personally, professionally, and organizationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, we need more Rotary clubs. Let's use Anytown as an example. Anytown is a city of 100,000 people and home to one proud Rotary club. But there are hundreds of other people of action, just like us, who are uniquely qualified to become Rotary members. They share the same drive and represent the values and fundamentals of a Rotary member. So why aren't they members? Well, the current club meets on Monday. There are leaders in Anytown who can't meet on a Monday. By excluding this segment, the potential members in Anytown has shrunk. Now consider, what if the meeting is at noon on Monday? There are people who can meet on Monday, but can't meet at noon. So now we have a smaller audience for Rotary in Anytown. Of the remaining group, some aren't interested in a club with a sit-down lunch and speakers. They are passionate about service, but aren't interested in a traditional club experience. And that is okay. The Rotary Club of Anytown isn't doing anything wrong. It just doesn't appeal to particular segments of the community. And if we're going to thrive for years to come, we must adapt and embrace change. In Anytown, we have an opportunity to expand because potential members are everywhere. More than half of the eligible people are prospective Rotary members, waiting to make a bigger impact in their community. But what Rotary Club exists for them? If Anytown creates new clubs at new times and new places, the hidden potential for Rotary will be revealed. As people of action, we must broaden our reach and provide opportunities to all leaders in the community. Together, all of us can grow Rotary.
So, correct. What we know is that in North America, we are a mature market in terms of where Rotary stands. That's part of where you see the level off and starting to fall off. It is clear that in order to maintain and hopefully grow membership in North America, we're going to need additional clubs that create new pathways and on-ramps into the organization. That's right. This is about innovative clubs. Okay. I didn't know if there's anything else you want to say. No? No? So innovative club approaches. There are several ways to approach this, and I will tell you, you've probably heard the term before that there are no Rotary police. You've probably heard that. To the extent that there's any Rotary police on membership, I'm it. I'm the Rotary coordinator, and I'm saying to you, we want you to be innovative. We have seen a number of new approaches to clubs across our zone. This year we have 39 new clubs across our zone, with 5 to 8 that will come on board in the next 2 months. By the end of this year, we will have almost 50 new clubs, and it's not an accident that we are going to experience our best year for membership in this zone in a decade. The two go hand in hand. And the districts that are at the front of that in terms of their growth are the ones who have created new clubs. They're not abandoning their existing clubs. We still need to engage our members. Those clubs are still doing great work. It's not about that. It's about what Anytown says. There are parts of our community that with our traditional structure are not going to reach would-be Rotarians. People who have a heart for service, people who hold our values already and can plug in.
I'm happy to say I have formed 5 clubs in this district.
Wow. Good stuff. Hey, come take the microphone. We'll hear your secrets. So, this is an opportunity. It's a chance for change. The innovation culture is going to be essential for our survival, frankly. If you extend the lines, if you look at what losing 12% over 5 years looks like, and you extend that not too far down the road, you realize there'll be communities without Rotary soon. And I don't think any of us wants to be part of the last generation of Rotarians in our community. I know that I don't. But this is an opportunity to look at innovative club formats. Ethnic, for instance. I know of clubs that have expats from certain countries. We see some of this particularly in South Florida, where you have people who have immigrated from other countries, cause-based. We have clubs that are, the Peace Builders Club, for instance, which can be considered a cause-based or a common interest. There are 2 golfing Rotary clubs in my district, golfing satellite clubs, who are very serious about service, but they have a shared passion for golf. I'm not in one of those, despite the bio that Jonathan read. There's a club that has been formed around scouting. They chartered with 60 members and formed a Rotaract club 2 months later. There are all kinds of ways that you can approach Rotary in a new way. You've heard about satellites. I heard reference earlier to the Impact Club. Let me just recast that for you. In a small community in North Carolina, a community of 30,000 people, a club started forming in June of 2020. It chartered in September of 2020. By the next spring, it had 80 members. Okay? Everything they do is different. They don't have formal meetings. They meet for service. They've created an app where they can push out to their members and say, the food pantry needs 6 volunteers Thursday at 2 o'clock. Their members jockey to be one of the 6. They introduce would-be Rotarians to Rotary through service. And people say, yeah, I like this. I want more of this. You talk about growing our impact in our community. For that matter, growing support of our Rotary Foundation. What's the easiest way to do that? Not shrinking members for starters, right? Growing membership, growing our donor base. So the impact is a type of satellite club. Now, I told you that happened in 2021. There are now 9 impact clubs across our zone. That's how many have popped up. We'll be doing a breakout at the Houston Convention with a room for 400 to talk about what this impact club is about. E-clubs. Your Peace Builder Club, of course, is an e-club. Alumni clubs that are based on those who have participated in our programs in the past. Corporate clubs. Now, I've heard a couple of times mentioning school teachers and how it doesn't fit for them at breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I'm working with a club in our zone right now that is forming at a school. A corporate club is generally held at a place of employment. The World Bank in D.C. has a on-site Rotary Club. Well, at this school, they're going to meet Wednesday afternoons at 3:30. Nobody says you have to meet over a meal. You don't have to serve a meal to be a Rotarian. So this will allow counselors and teachers and principals and other staff to be a part of this club. It's going to be a satellite club because they anticipate about 12 people. But they're no less Rotarians than we are. They want to serve their community. So that's a type of corporate club. Of course, Rotaract and Rotary, that bond that we talked about, and the original bond for Jonathan and me. Rotaract clubs. This is not to the exclusion of Interact, I promise. But now that Rotaract has been elevated and those clubs are members of Rotary, that is an investment in our future. It is an investment in today because of the service they bring in the parts of our community that they reach that traditionally we do not. And of course, traditional Rotary clubs. We're still issuing charters for them. But the formation of clubs is going to be key, at least in North America, to being able to stop the drain that we have had on membership. Are you all familiar with passport clubs? A passport club is formed specifically for service. It plugs into other clubs' projects to multiply the impact of those projects. And we do have some of those in our zone. Building the bridge. We are all leaders. Everybody in this room is a leader. It is our job to meet and to nurture opportunities for future leaders. We have to build the bridge to them, not the other way around. That's our job as leaders. So, I'll come to you. So, we have to, again, ask what they want. How can we create something that will work for you? Assuming they have the values that we hold dear. Diversity, integrity, leadership, all the core values of Rotary International. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Question I have is, if you go back to the slide before, how do you square, like you have ethnic there, how do you square having an ethnic club with the diversity, equity, things like that, or the corporate club where it's all teachers and you're supposed to not have, you want variety of vocations?
So often with diversity, we think to things that we can see, right? We think about skin tone, we think about gender, we think about age, some of those things. And you're right. In an ethnic club, you may not have particular diversity when it comes to skin tone. But you can still have great diversity in professional or community pursuits, diversity of thought, diversity of physical abilities. Same is true in a corporate club. Obviously, there's something in common there in terms of where they work, but you can have diversity in lots of other ways. So can we get perfect diversity in every individual club? Unlikely. But we can get better diversity as an organization. Because I think we would agree when we talk about clubs that are based on an ethnicity, we've got the Caucasian side of things pretty well covered. So we can add diversity to the overall organization by, for instance, having a club in South Florida that speaks Spanish. And some of them are refugees, some of them immigrated, but they do have that in common, and it's a rallying point for them. Does that? I mean, it's a serious question, and
to me, it seems to go against some of Rotary's ideals, because I understand what you're saying, but you could have a club that doesn't have women. They're still diverse. They've got women, but it doesn't have women. But that's been one of Rotary's points against that. If you have one that is all Hispanic, but they don't have anyone else, you're exclusive instead of being inclusive. So that would concern me with looking up at that chart where you are putting that in there as well. Here's a way to do it ethnic.
And it doesn't mean that when they come together, it's to the exclusion of anybody else who would like to join. Often that's the rallying point. And then, for instance, with that particular club I was mentioning, I know of others who are native U.S. citizens who speak Spanish who have chosen to join it because they enjoy having that opportunity. So it's not to the exclusion of anybody else, but it can be a rallying point to form in the beginning.
Okay.
Differences with them is the age limit for Rotaract.
Well, there is not an age limit.
I wanted to clarify that because that is one thing I thought I read where they have done away with the age limit for Rotaractors.
There is no age limit for Rotaract.
Okay.
In fact, that came before the council on legislation and was voted down. But I think most Rotaractors fall into a narrower age band. So it's not as multi-generational as, for instance, this room would be. Yeah. Sure. And then finally, we need you. When it comes to membership, this is a team sport. It's a team sport. Most clubs have a very small number of people who propose new members, who actually take the time to attract new members. And the reality is, we all have to be involved with this. We all take for granted that supporting the Rotary Foundation and community services, that's just part of being a Rotarian. And I would submit to you that achieving a more robust membership should be equally a part of being a Rotarian. Sharing Rotary with work colleagues, with family, with neighbors, with all of the people within your circle. Rotary is important enough to you that you're here on a Saturday morning and you traveled to be here. It means something to you. You feel it right here. Don't you want to share that? I mean, someone took the time to propose you for membership, right? That's a gift that hopefully you want to pay forward. So I know we've had some questions as we've gone along. I think I'm at the end of my time, and I don't want us to run into lunch. If there's one more quick question, I'll take it. Is it a quick question?
So I'm going to back up a little bit. And you said we are adding X number of clubs, which is fantastic, and therefore members. How many have we lost, if we have? And if we have, do we know why?
This year we have lost, I think, 5 clubs across our zone. And I will tell you the way that clubs usually go away is if they stay on that trajectory, like Earl showed earlier. They get to a certain point, and we know that clubs below 20 are at serious risk. You know, Pat made the point earlier, 20 is the critical mass to charter a club. Typically what happens is when a club gets below 20, there's 1, maybe 2 people who are the glue holding that club together. And if that one person or those 2 people pass away, move away, have a life change that allows them to no longer be the glue, the club falls apart. And that's typically how a club goes away. That's why clubs that are below that threshold, member attraction is even more important.
It's not a question, just a quick statement. I think we talk about bringing people into our club, recruitment. We don't talk about sustainability. So what if they join your club? So what if they speak and come? We have to make sure that we engage our clubs and change the structure and just adjust it so that the programs reflect so that these people don't feel alone. Otherwise, they will leave the club and go to another club. So what we've done at Crystal City Pentagon Rotary Club is we identified 2 people that are in charge of DEI. So we have a DEI in our club now, making sure that our programs are not just inclusive, they're versatile, and they're also allowing that mentor-mentee relationship where people, you feel included. I'm the president for the Rotary Club. I wanted to leave, but now I'm the president. So having that mentorship was able to help amplify not just Crystal City Pentagon Rotary Club voices, but our community. Let your work speak for itself. You don't have to recruit sometimes. They'll come to you and say, what you're doing is good, I'm attracted, how can I join your club? So it's not a question, just a comment.
And you'll never hear me use the term recruit. I'll always talk about attraction. I'll always talk about attraction, which I think is what you're getting to. I do think when we talk about asking your members what you want, surveying them, club health check, that we're very much in alignment on that. We need to consider the needs of our members so that we continue to engage them. If you engage your members, you will both keep the ones you have and you'll attract new members. So thank you for that comment. I'm going to turn it over to my friend Earl to step forward with a success story of an innovative club.
And I'm going to turn it over to David Pierce here in just a moment. Patrick's kind of a slow learner. He handed this back to me, so. But as I said before, David is the gentleman that was responsible for setting up the satellite club in our club, and he's going to talk about that process.
No.
Well, the buttons.
For my slides? I got slides? Yeah. In the interest of full disclosure, I believe two things. I believe it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. And I believe that we tend in Rotary to be a top-down organization. We tend to think about RI and what RI recommends and what RI does. Earl's going to regret having me come up here. And I heard Pat say earlier this morning when I walked in that there are certain things, guidelines and ideas and things that we should be checking on and making sure we're doing. I tend to believe we should figure out what works for us in our communities and then make sure we're in compliance with RI and how we can enhance and magnify and do what we're doing in line with RI. And so there's a harmony. But we should start as a bottom-up organization. And so that's kind of where we were in Rappahannock, Fredericksburg. The Satellite Club, there was a lot of discussion. What was this going to be? Is this starting a new club? Is this a kind of a nursery for a new club? Is this going to draw away our own members? We identified a need. We had some young members. We had gone from being average age over 60. We had started bringing in some young professionals, executive director of the local SPCA. I think she was in her early to mid-30s. We had some entrepreneur business people in the club that were fairly young. And they started asking their peers to come join. And we were running into things, well, we can't be there. We're early in our careers. We can't be there at 7:30 in the morning for breakfast and stay until 8:30. We can't afford $300 a quarter for dues and meals and so forth. We've got young families. We've got children. We're getting them off to school. So we were seeing that was a need to address those objections. We wanted to identify leadership. All right, if we do this satellite club, if this is our answer, who is going to help lead it? And so some of these young folks stepped out and said, I will spend time with the satellite group to help nurture that. And so then we sat down and said, all right, who is the target group going to be? And it really did start out in the discussion as being younger millennials, younger professionals, or on that professional track. And I'll come back to that. So then we identified and developed a process for meeting them where they were. One of our club members was the dean of the business school at the University of Mary Washington. She knew a lot of young people who had been through the business school and were still local in business and starting their careers. They weren't leaders in their organizations, but they will be leaders in their organizations. So we were able to identify those folks. And we put together kind of our draft list of who we were going to get in the draft. Then we presented this idea to club leadership, to the president, to the board, and said, here's what we want to do to expand our reach and to expand our touch in the community and make it possible to let these people have a way to serve in the community. There were the typical questions. Is this going to draw off our membership? Our membership's going to want to go do that because the dues are cheaper or the meeting times are different. Satellite Club, we went into it, it would meet once a month. These are busy people, busy young people who are building their careers, building their lives, building their families. We were going to meet once a month, but have a service project once a month. So it would be very intentional. And that was the idea. Well, you're not meeting enough. Rotary's supposed to meet once a week. It was one of those types of things. This is supposed to be business leaders. You're going to bring in people who aren't business. They're not management in their organizations or owners of their organizations. They're lower tier. That's not what Rotary is. So we fought a lot of those ingrained ideas about who we are as Rotary. Presented to club leadership. Luckily, in our club leadership, there was enough strong voices that we overcame those objectives, and they said, what the hell, go ahead and try it. So we enlisted current club members. I got enlisted. I have no filter, and sometimes that works for our club, to let somebody with no filter have some responsibility. So we developed this list of potential prospects in the target group, held informational meetings in a home, over pizza, cold beer, something very casual. Just come on out, hang out, and hear what we have, what we've got in mind. Held those informational meetings, and then provided opportunities for those prospects to say, if you like what you've heard, invite somebody else. We're going to do another one of these things. We'll have some tunes for about a half hour, talk, just visit, get to know each other, where you are in your career, that type of thing. Then we made the ask. That's important. If you're in sales, you got to ask for the ticket. You got to ask somebody for the purchase. So we said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to take that next step and say, I want to be a part of this groundbreaking first-time opportunity. We determined after we heard that interest, and the ones who said, okay, we'll commit, we said, how viable is this going to be? Who do we need? How many do we need to make this work? Then we just made the leap. Here's where it does get a little sticky. We completed the application, the Satellite Club application form. It's an RI form. I've got copies of it here. I've printed stuff for you if you're interested. And we've got this thing at Rappahannock, Fredericksburg. We still haven't figured out what's the best way. Do you run it through membership committee, a prospect, or a proposal before you tell the individual you're going to propose them? Because suppose somebody says, you got 3 or 4 people who go, we don't want them to be members. And if you've already told them you're going to present them for membership, and then the club decides not to ask them, it's kind of, so it was that kind of, how do we go about this? Do we present it to the sponsor club first for their approval for these individuals? But anyway, we just said, what the hell? We'll fill out an application for every one of these people who've committed. And there is a standard RI new membership information form. Got copies of that for you. We submitted the club application, the Satellite Club application, and the club membership, the Satellite Club membership info to our club so that they could see what we were doing. Then we sent it to RI, and we were approved. We presented our slate of club charter members, so to speak, to RI, and Patrick came and started our. Jonathan came and started our club for us. Our first meeting, Jonathan came and did the song and dance for Rotary. And we took pictures and sent them to our parents. And I don't know if there was a video. But it was. And I will tell you this: Rotary, we tend to be very typical of our business organization functions. Old school. We start in an organization and get promoted up through the ranks until we're in leadership. That's how the old business model was, and I think that's kind of how Rotary does it. The millennials now are vertical. They're moving horizontally between organizations in their careers. They have no qualms with working in this company for 4 or 5 years, getting a skill set, and then moving to a different company. That's what they're doing here in their lives, in your communities. They are finding a place of service, and when that gets full or it's not meeting their need, they're moving somewhere else. And so we can make Rotary one of those opportunities, and that's what we found. We had a lot of young professionals who said, we went to college in this community, we want to be part of this community, we've got a small entrepreneurial business interest in this community, we want to be involved because we're being successful in our careers, our jobs. We want to give back to the community that's making us successful. So we have an opportunity to provide that for a lot of these folks. So that's where we started. We had to get a club liaison chairman. it was for the first year, they asked me to do that. So I served as the club chairman. A satellite club has a chairman, not a president. That's some technical stuff. You can call them whatever you want. They formed their own committees. We got through the year. We went right into COVID. Because of who we were as a younger group, I thought it was kind of cool that I got to hang out with a bunch of 30-somethings. They drink better beer than I do. Our social media impact in the community, for our sponsor club, Taylor Lewis is our president, he'll attest to the fact our social media blew up on Facebook and Instagram because they were going to local restaurants that were struggling and delivering meals to people, Rotarians, senior Rotarians in our Rotary Club and others, helping out the restaurants by providing that door-to-door service with the meal deliveries, helping out the Rotarians and putting it on there on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn that they were doing this type of thing, and it really kept that kind of service alive. I served for a year as the chairman of the group, just kind of coordinating, letting them just do what they wanted to do. They have done a service project every single month. They've included the sponsor club and made those service opportunities available to the sponsoring club. We've had quite a few sponsoring club members be involved and come to the meetings as makeups or just to see what's going on. This past month, Gwyneth's Gifts, which is a group that trains for CPR and how to use an AED machine, came to the meeting and trained 35 people on CPR and using an AED machine, where you may find them. And we had a good number of morning club members who came and were trained and liked that opportunity. We have seen a little bit of drift of our sponsoring club members who, because of changes in their career pattern, they were getting close to retirement, they did retire, they were doing a new role in their jobs, have moved to the satellite club. So some people have gone, see, well, I told you we'd lose some of our regular members to the satellite club. I will tell you we would have lost those members to Rotary if we had not had the satellite club option. You know? So we've kept those people active. Still come to morning meetings if it's available. If you're a satellite member, we have our satellite club chairman this year, Danielle Kennedy. She comes to quite a few morning club meetings. She zooms in for most of them. The second year, I want to go back to a comment that was made about your kids. And when you have children, I raised 3 boys. And sometimes when you have kids, there's disciplinary problems. And I had 1 or 2 early on with my boys, and we sat and had a conversation about the 4-way test. And then for a long time, when they were adolescents, early teens, the 4-way test was posted in their bathroom. We brought them to Rotary Club meetings. We have a good number of members who would bring. It was inconvenient. We had responsibility for our kids. Well, we drug them to Rotary for that hour, not regularly, but just once in a while, so they were exposed to Rotary. Understood the 4-way test, understood my commitment to Rotary. The second year, a satellite club member took over as chairman. It was my son. It was because he had been exposed to Rotary for a long time. You know, so it's just, this is what Innovative Club's about, you know. Just finding an opportunity to involve people that haven't been involved. I've got frequently asked questions. I've got about 40 copies of Satellite Club, frequently asked questions. I've got applications for the club and for it might not be right for your club. You might be struggling just to keep your own club afloat. You know, maybe this isn't right for you, but something else may be right. And I'll be available with Earl during the course of the year to talk to you about what it is that might work to think outside the box. I thought it was pretty interesting, one of the slides on the DEI presentation showed a box, kind of like a house. And it's that box that we get into, but then it broke down. The walls kind of fell down flat, and there was more room for more people to be involved on top of those walls. So we're here for you. I'll answer questions later. Thank you, Earl. My understanding is the Satellite Club is a structured club. It's a single group of people. A Passport Club is where you become a member of the Passport Club, but then you can go to other clubs. You don't necessarily stay. You're constantly getting a visitor's pass type of thing. Yeah, there's not a structured place and time type of thing. Yes, sir. Dues were significantly lower. There's no meal involved. We meet at 5:30 on Thursdays. There's no meals involved. We meet, right now, the Fredericksburg Nationals is a single-A baseball team. We're meeting in their club level. The president of the baseball team is one of our Satellite Club members. Yes? So how are you doing the RI fees? The RI fees are part of our dues. The dues for the sponsor club are about $260, somewhere between there and $300 a quarter. For the Satellite Club, it's like $110. Yeah, there's no meals involved. All they're paying is RI dues and some fees to support the service projects. Yes, ma'am. They're billed by our treasurer, by the sponsor club treasurer. They're members of. When you're a Satellite Club, you're a member of the sponsor club. They are the Rappahannock Fredericksburg Satellite Club member. Yes, an invoice with a lower amount. Yeah, but we do have a Satellite Club treasurer who maintains a segregated amount for their projects and for their socials and that type of thing. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if Earl told you, I'm going to be district governor July 1st. And when he told me that you were going to be on the committee with him, one of my goals for next year is to work on family Rotary clubs and family membership types. I want us to build our pipeline the same way you did with your son and grow them from 5 years or 4 years old all the way through so that my great-grandchildren that are coming in October will be able to be Rotarians someday and become district governors as well. And I'm thrilled to have you in that position to help us all achieve that dream.
Thank you. There was a question over here. Yes, sir. Yes, we call it a club because it's just verbiage. It's just how we identify. You can say any damn thing you want. You can call them a club or a committee or an organization. It's the identity of that group who meets on Thursday evenings at 5:30, and then they do service. And it has become very diverse. We started out targeting millennials because we knew that's where the interest was, but we ended up with folks older than me, and I'm 66. So there are people in the club with millennials, functionally basically led by millennials, who have come back to Rotary because they were retired and left Rotary because they were traveling. But hey, now that I'm retired and I'm gone a lot, I can be there once a month. I can do service once a month. I'm back in Rotary because of that. Or where I was going to have to leave Rotary because my job was changing and I can no longer do the morning club's breakfast meeting, I can stay part of this group of people who mean something to me, but I can meet in the evening and meet for service. So what you call yourself, I don't care. You can call yourself Jack Sprat's, friendship group. It's just a word. Yes, we had 12 charter members, and they're now almost 20. I think there's 23 or 24 members of the group now. You only need 8 to start.
Thank you. This is not any idea, but when he spoke about the imbibing Rotary qualities into children, my mind went back to my part of the world where Rotary supports students in their education, vocation, trains them for better education, gives them things that they need. They come up in life later, and because of Rotary they have come up so far, they come back to Rotary and give back to the society whatever little they can do. Earlier, Rotary was meant for the elite, but when it reaches the common man, all common men are happy, men and women of course, are happy to give back to Rotary what they got from Rotary. So that's something from my part of the world. I don't know how it works here. I just wanted to say that. Imbibing Rotary qualities. That is the main point. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great point. That's a very great point. I identify with Dave. I've got 2 young boys, and they travel around, especially before COVID. They were coming to me in meetings and events, and I hope that seeps into their blood as well. David, fabulous session. Thank you. I was about a year ago. I was watching this documentary on Garth Brooks, and he was talking about being at the Bluebird Cafe, which is this famous cafe in Nashville where stars are born, I guess. And he was hearing this woman sing this song called Wolves, and he said he was in the back of the room when he walked in, and he was just enamored by her voice, but the lyrics of the song. He said before he knew it, by the time the song was up, he had walked all the way to the front, to the stage, and he thought, gosh, she probably scared him. I probably scared her. Long story short, he was able to buy the song from her, and he cut it as one of his records. Dave, I kind of felt the same way about you. I was sitting right here and thought the more you talked, the more I was like, I want to just get up there and be beside Dave. He's saying some really great things. But I thought that would get really weird, so I decided to sit down. But I do think there's some really key points there, and I think that's what a great demonstration of best practices to starting a Rotaract Club. We are running short on time, so we're going to do an exercise as a big group real quickly, and then Patrick is going to be invited back up to close out the session. We know you all want lunch, and I'm not going to get in your way. That's all right. I don't know what happened. Earl, do you have the remote again? This is doing a recap here of everything. Oh my goodness. All right. My arm's tired now. All right. So I just want to talk about this as a big group. Now that we've given a great overview of the importance of diversity, importance of being strategic, the importance of being flexible, how you can do all those different circles of formalizing groups of people to join Rotary. I want to hear from you guys what you think works for your club, your community. A few examples before we end today. Randy.
So we were kind of forced to become a Zoom club.
The other one.
But in addition to that, we realized we had several members who were still employed, unlike the retirees like me, and most of our club. And they were never able to come to our lunchtime meetings. So now we're Zooming, and they said, hey guys, could you meet in the evening when we're more available? And we thought about it, and we said, well, sure, why not? So we tried 6:30, that wasn't early enough. Now we're meeting at 7 o'clock. And now we get these people in much more regularly. They may call from their car sometimes because they're still trying to get home, but we made ourselves much more accessible to our members, and some of our new members are traveling a fair bit. And again, they can call in from wherever. So we have made those adjustments, but it still hasn't really grown our club. It's let us maintain our membership as people have left. Unfortunately, we lost our last founding member last year. But I'm hearing ideas here that are sparking some ideas for me. We work mainly with the Arlington Career Center and the Arlington High School. And the club there, is it Interact? That's high school? Yeah, I always mix these up. The Interact Club there has been feeble. The academic advisor was a guidance counselor who I found very unresponsive, not very helpful. Fortunately, she's gone, and I hope a new one has come in. But it occurred to me, this is a largely immigrant community. A lot of these students for whom we do scholarships are first-generation Americans. Maybe we can try to hook up more with the school, perhaps by starting by talking with the PTA, with the school staff, and maybe with the student council or something, and find out more about the needs of this community. We've got George Mason University, the grad school and the law school, a mile away, I guess, maybe in Boston. And maybe if we can identify the community needs, we can go to that university and say, okay, you've got faculty, you've got grad students, you've got staff and the like. What can you do perhaps to help this community? Maybe form a satellite club together with maybe some of the faculty members of the Career Center and the high school. To be truthful, I really don't know if the guys in my club have got the energy to try this, but I will go back and suggest something like this and see what it comes.
Thank you, Randy. Any other types of clubs that resonated with people? Go ahead, Tintin.
I had formed the first E-Club 7 years ago, and that is very, very effective because we meet in the evening, 8 to 9, only once a month. It's by Zoom. Before anybody knows what a Zoom meeting is, we started that. And we are getting a huge grant of $804,000 from the Rotary Foundation to train 50 doctors in Palestine, Palestinian doctors in Israel. It's also a peace project.
That's amazing.
Very happy about it.
Amazing. Yeah, PDG 1010 was ahead of the curve on the whole Zoom thing.
We've actually had a newer member come to us and ask us to basically start a satellite club. He has a lot of millennial friends who want to do good, who want to work together, but they can't come to any of those meetings. They don't want to come to those meetings. They're busy there, but they want to be able to do service. So if he's already come to us asking if they could do that, I think we're well on our way.
Great. That's awesome. One or two more.
This coming Monday, Gregory Washington, the new president of George Mason, will be attending our meeting. I tried to engage with him and his staff over the last couple of years. That didn't work. So when he comes Monday, I invite all of you to come and pepper him with questions about how he could get involved with Rotary, whether it's Rotaract, the Satellite Club, an Impact Club. I really don't care. But he's got to hear from a lot of people who use his university, which is part in the city of Fairfax and the county of Fairfax, and it's an opportunity that we won't have again.
Thank you very much. Well, Mr. Holcomb.
Okay, it's Mr. Holcomb.
Yeah, past District Governor Harry Henderson and our existing District Governor Pat, we had a second venue like you talked about at the school. And it wasn't a satellite club. They were regular members. Harry got in 26 new members in 1 year. There are still a lot of our membership now. We might go in a different direction, but that does work.
All right, well, we're getting into our time, but I hope you're able to take some of this information today, go back, and we're not looking for, great perfection. We're looking to create change. And so take some of this, figure out what works best for your club. But I'll end with this before I turn it back over to Patrick. It's a Chinese proverb that says, man grows most tired when he stands still. So I implore each and every one of you all to keep moving and grow Rotary. Mr. Eakes.
Are we on? Yeah, we're on. Great. I want to address what I haven't heard today, but I know exists in many pockets of Rotary, some myths, if you will. People worry when we talk about innovative clubs about cannibalizing their own club. We're going to lose members to this new club, right? We hear that. I can tell you now with 3 years of experience of working on innovative clubs, it does not happen. Occasionally, people will move to a satellite, like David mentioned, but as you correctly said, those are people who were going to leave. It actually became a way to retain that member in a format that makes sense. And I'm going to bet that some of you have gone through an intersection before where there was a gas station on all four corners, right? You've seen that before? The third and the fourth one didn't build there because they were going to get less business otherwise. Raising the brand of Rotary in your community by having more on-ramps, more connections to your community is good for all of the clubs and all of the Rotarians involved and for the community itself. Our market penetration across our zone, less than 0.1% of our populations are in Rotary. Less than 1 in 1,000 people in your communities are in Rotary. There is plenty of room for another club. Plenty of room for another club. I want to finish where we started. Everything that we value in Rotary gets better with at least a stable and hopefully a growing membership. Events like this get better. Our connections, our friendships, our impacts on our community gets better with more Rotarians. Certainly what we can do through our Rotary Foundation, it's better with more people. And that this is a team sport. We truly need all of you involved. And judging by the engagement I've seen this morning, the questions, the comments, the thoughtfulness, I know that you all are the folks to take this back to your clubs, back to your communities to help grow Rotary. We are a membership organization. We must take care of our members. That means asking them what's working, what's not working, what we can do better, what would they like. We must engage them. You're so right about that. We must engage them. We talked about satisfaction versus loyalty earlier. An engaged member is someone who is loyal. I used to say when I was district governor, I cannot leave Rotary even if I want to because my children will not allow it. Our children were and are that involved with Rotary that it would absolutely, if I broached this over the dinner table, it would be voted down. It would not be allowed. That's engagement and loyalty much beyond just my own membership. So I want to thank my co-presenters today, Earl, Jonathan, David. I want to thank all of you for your engagement in this. It wasn't so bad, right, doing 3 hours because you all were involved with this. But my last call to action is please take these messages home. Please use your resources that we've talked about, whether that be international, district, zone level, but mostly use your creativity when you go home. Break the mold. Come up with the next great club model that others will replicate. This guy who created the impact model less than 2 years ago, he didn't ask for permission from anybody, and he created something special. Like I said, 9 clubs in our zone that have been formed off of an original idea. And we're about to form a club in the Netherlands, the first international impact club. Be that kind of pioneer. Be creative. You know what works in your community. You know what your community needs. But take advantage of the flexibility that has been granted and use it for good. Thank you all.